Jenn Morse, Donna Martin. I'm Luis. This is Breathing Life, and we are going to talk with Jenn, who we met a few weeks ago at Illuminate Film Festival, and we all just hit it off, and we're like, Jenn, you should come and talk to us. She's like, I'd love to. Anyway, long story short, we are here, and we're going to ask her a few questions, but we'd love to hear, about you, your background, and
Thank you for the hat.
Oh yes, Jenn
From Soul Church.
Soul Church, yeah.
That's part of what I do. Yes.
Among other things, Tell us a little bit.
Yeah. Soul Church is my nonprofit, and it's this movement towards really bringing people together in spirit, in community, and having this place where people can recharge and feel whole and held and human, fully just human. Like, what does that mean, and how can we bring spirituality without religion into this?
Yeah.
So it's bridging a lot of gaps where traditional church left. So one of the things is like a values-based hub, community hub. We have virtual and we have in person. So in person, we're really focusing on that community hub where people used to go to church like a watering hole and exchange. Someone had extra oranges, someone needed oranges. There was all of this exchange calendars that were published, and we're missing that. Yeah. So that's one of the things that Soul Church is bringing, as well as high quality spiritual wellness events, where people can tap in, connect to source, their choosing of a higher consciousness, whatever that may be, outside of the confines of religion.
Yeah.
But there's still a structure.
Yeah.
So that's Soul Church, and I love it. It's like my heart's work.
Yeah.
And we're in a very big growth phase right now, so it's like you'll hear more.
Yeah.
When I hear more about it.
I think when we first started the conversation with you, that was one of the things that I felt deeply connected with the fact that yes, I've always felt like the initiation of any religion, right? And we're not trying to pin into one religion, but that is the connection. Is like a community of support, of love, and it's human connection, and that we always have somebody around us to support us whenever we need it.
Yes.
And I feel like now it's very different. It's been translated in multiple different versions. And so I think if you come back to the self and to how we feel, I mean, it doesn't really matter what religion you are. That is the religion, is the connection, the human connection is what we're always yearning for.
Yes.
So,
And we have a loneliness epidemic.
Absolutely.
And a burnout epidemic. Suicide rates are very concerning. I mean, we're in a really interesting point in time.
Would you say
disconnection has?
Yeah, and I think I know that's part of the reason why we started Breathing to Life, because we do feel like you have just mentioned that burnout and disconnect between feeling like you can do everything and not being able to just get outside of your house. So would you say right now, or has it always been like this, where people are burnt out and feeling isolated?
I mean, I didn't live 100 years ago or 200 years ago, right? But I know that seeing the statistics over the last 50 years reported, it's definitely increasing. That also. So 1930, there's this one data set, 1937 to 2022, I think, where it's pairing the amount of people that went to church or synagogue, temple, was 70% of people in 1937. Now that has flipped on its head, and 70% of people don't go at all.
Wow.
Right.
And even within that 30% that do, it might not be regular. So in less than 100 years, we have lost a huge structure that we were depending on as a human species. I don't think we understood how much it gave us. Right? And obviously there was downfalls and pitfalls to
Sure.
you know, abuse of power, right, in that structure. But that also is coinciding with, you know, technology rising, us becoming more separate, isolated. Everyone, you know, everyone has their own blender. Everyone has their own lawnmower. Everyone has their own car. That wasn't always like that. Like, we were much more communal.
Right.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, I don't need anybody else. We're all working so that we don't need anyone else, which is absurd.
Okay.
Because we actually, on a fundamental, biological, and spiritual level, we do need each other.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
I would like to know how you even got to the point of creating Soul Church. Like, how did that? You're like, I'm going to do this, and you started to execute that.
Yeah.
Like, you started to like make that happen. Like,
Yeah.
how did you get to that? Was it because you were brought up in the church? I don't know, or in any,
Great question.
you know, like what happened to you, or how did you get to that point? And maybe you want to share that with
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah. So I grew up, my immediate family, like my mother, my father, my brother, we grew up fairly agnostic with some Christian influence, but very light. My aunt and my grandmother were both very religious, and I loved hanging out with both of them. So when I would go hang out with my aunt, I would usually go for like, and my cousins were all in the same little town. So when we'd go, we'd stay for a while, and when we'd stay, that meant we'd go to church. So it wasn't something that I was forced to do. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
So good.
And I had I remember going into that church and just looking at the stained glass windows and the vaulted ceilings and just being like, wow, this feels special. At the same time, I remember the energy from a lot of those people in that church feeling really uncomfortable to me and sticky. And I was young. I mean, this was between ages like 5 and 14-ish. And I still remember having these thoughts, like, there's something wrong. There's something misaligned in what's going on here. There's something so beautiful that I can't describe, and there's something so dark that I can't describe. And it's just not meshing for me. So I went on a journey, but my first big awakening moment was when I was 8, actually. My aunt would teach Sunday school, and there was a boy I had a crush on, so I would like always want to go to Sunday school, right? Whenever it's happening, I'm like, if I'm there, I'm like, okay, he's there.
That's how you're always enticed to do something.
Exactly. And now, no, like, thank you for being that for me, but definitely not, right?
Open up a whole new world you didn't know.
Okay.
I hope he's watching.
We won't say a name. Right?
I know, I'm like, no. But I remember her saying, gosh, it was a hymn. It was like the Lamb and Jesus and this whole thing. And something hit me like a jack in the box. And I just ran outside in the parking lot and started breathing. And I felt connection to God, source, universe, Jesus, whatever you want to say. And I was like, wow. This is real.
Yeah.
But I'm not, it's still, even at that age, at that young age, I was like, I can't buy into this. There's something telling me not to. So I've been on a lifelong journey to find out, what is that?
Wow.
What is that feeling that I experienced? And I've experienced it many other times since then, but that was the first time I remember that.
Wow. So you, you're young. Golly, that's so interesting to me, because I had a very different experience with religion, you know, when I was young.
Yeah.
And it was run. It was rebel.
Yeah.
It was like fear.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of like, no, you're going to hell.
Right.
We're already told, like, we're little kids, and it was like, no, that's it. that's really it. That's all. Like, that's it. Yep, that's it. The decision was made up for me,
Yeah.
and I was passive in that, and it was just so scary.
Yeah.
That whole and seeing some person on the cross dying,
Yeah.
like just bleeding out, and you're like, damn, and the whole like it was just the stories, and it just really had a very different. But I never was. It didn't call me in the way that it,
Yeah.
obviously called you. You're an antenna, or you were like a
Yes.
receiving.
And I guess because I know there's many different perspectives on religion, right?
Yeah.
It depends on like how you were brought up. I always felt strongly like when you have a religion instilled, you have faith. Somehow the two are tied hand in hand, and I do know having faith is very important in a human experience, and to be soulful and to be connected. So I have 3 kids, and that's all I ever tell them is like, to me, it's not which religion you believe in, because their dads and I are different, religions, but having faith in someone, a power that's higher than you is important, because one, you can always lean on the higher power, right? And be connected to the source. Yeah. So I'm so glad that we're having this conversation, because as we do know now that many, all of us have different experiences in how we were brought up.
Totally.
Well, Donna, how did you realize that you have faith? Like how does a person suddenly, like there is no faith. I don't know what you're talking about, but how do you get to the point where you're like, okay, there's faith, and from that to me that's challenging, It has been challenging, and it's not anymore, but at a certain point, but I'm certain that there's a lot of people in the world that's like, faith, whatever,
Yeah, if I have to go back that far, I do know that it was something that was a knowing, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like it lived in my my field of consciousness. I always felt like, well, a bad thing's happening, but it's gonna get better. I don't know why or how I came up with that conclusion, but I just always knew. I mean, in my background is I was raised Buddhist. My grandparents were Buddhist, and they went to the temple. And I just remember, I was never forced to go. I was never like, oh, you're going to pray, and da-da-da. And it was like, in your case, I was just brought there because they always went there, and I would just go and play on outside in the yard. And I just remember, the serene and calmness of the temple, and the smell of the incense, and then the chanting from the monks that just, was so calming to my nervous system. I can smell it right now, and I can hear the sounds of the singing bowl, and I can hear all of that still lives in me. And so that's all I remember, but I never really went on to practice it, I just knew okay, we went to the temple a lot. So in my tweens, my dad was not religious, so when I married my first husband, he was Christian, so we went to church, and I had the same experience. I sat there and felt God, this place is amazing, right? And some of the pastors, just the messages that were that were spoken from the pastors, I felt connected to them when they were speaking about unity and connection, and helping one another. But there were also messages that were a little bit, I couldn't really relate to. I'll just put it out. And I just couldn't really understand. And I thought, well, maybe because I'm not from that religion.
Right.
But there was a deep sadness that I couldn't overcome.
Yeah.
I always felt people are really sad here, and I'm not sure why they waited this long to come to church. I always felt God is always here, right? God can be leaned on anytime. But again, let me just by faith. Let's come back to faith, because I believe that's how we understand and believe or have faith is that when you are connected to that higher powerful source, yeah, and you know that it's like things are gonna get better. Yeah, if you've tapped into that.
What do you think? I agree.
Well, you tapped into something really powerful, which is what happened to your nervous system when you went to temple. We all know, just like cats know, dogs know, animals know what energy they need to be around and what energy they don't want to be around. Right?
Right.
We have this big, huge thinking brain in our heads that has been significantly growing, and especially the analytical part of it, right? And it prevents us from listening to where do we need to go to regulate, to feel aligned, to feel attuned. Like you knew as a kid, I just know it feels good here. It feels good to me. And just like I knew as a kid, part of this feels good, but part of it doesn't. It's coherence and incoherence, if we're going to break it down really clearly. Right? Incoherence causes cancer cells, right? Coherence causes a very beautifully operating energy field and system and cells that operate really at full capacity.
Yeah.
So just on a biological level, we know that to have faith. So you can do a test with yourself. Okay, let's say there's something really scary happening. You got scary news, right? Maybe a health diagnosis. What is going to feel better in your body? To put your body in a state of healing, what do you need to do? Do you think you need to be in fear and dread and have no faith?
Yeah.
Or do you think that faith is a tool for healing? I think faith is a tool for healing and for unity, connection, oneness to, I don't view it as some guy in the sky. Right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't negate the fact that others might, and that's fine.
If that works for
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the tool of faith
That's really
is
interesting.
really powerful.
So how do you think then a person goes from not having that to conviction? Does it without the crisis, rock bottom element?
Without that, I don't know.
I don't either.
We must go there before we can come back.
I don't either. I don't either. I'm serious. It's like
We've been trying to figure that out.
I don't know.
And to be honest with you, that's a debate that Luis and I have all the time.
All the time.
So he, feels like, well, without pain, there's no consciousness.
Right.
And I thought, well, what if we catch them before rock bottom? Can we catch them? Can I give you a hand before you hit the floor?
Yeah.
And I breathe into life, Donna, want to do that. Luis goes, fine, hit the bottom and I'll pick you back up.
Yeah.
Or can I help you get back up?
I mean, I think it's possible. I think
Yeah.
it's. I'm just curious. What do you think?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
some of us had to hit rock bottom to transcend.
Definitely.
You have to. I had to, and I'm not alone, right? So, but I hear what you're saying, Donna. It's like, but man, I could have saved myself a lot of headache by just catching myself 20 or 15 years ago or whatever to start to change and start to okay, wait a second, there is, but I didn't,
Totally.
And then there's a lot of people. So what do you think about that?
I see 3 paths. One being rock bottom. One being you were born into a culture or a family, a system where you were able to adopt faith in such a strong way that was imprinted, and the negative side effects of it did not affect you to drop it, right?
Okay, so simplify that. If that one, just to say really simple terms. Imagine I'm a 5th grader trying to understand exactly what I understand it.
Yeah. So rock bottom.
It's number 2.
Faith. growing up with faith.
So you're
basically.
born into it. Like you're not even aware. But you have been. But what if you haven't been? What if you're like your parents are like
So
this is
that'd be the
abusive
third
or-
person, the
Okay.
third type,
Got it.
which is those that are curious, questioning.
Great.
What is this life about? What is my purpose? Why am I here? Right? Those curious people, I think yes.
Right.
If they're willing to keep stepping forward
Yep.
towards curiosity,
Yep.
those are the people you're talking about that might not have to hit rock bottom
Yeah.
in order to open gradually into this experience.
I agree with that. Like I can't remember I was just listening to somebody talk about why so many people that are born into really difficult situations, like let's say poverty or crime, don't end up that way. They don't. They're like because they keep looking for like a way. Like no, I have to like find an alternative. This doesn't feel good. My body.
Yeah.
Like, they just knew.
They
right?
know.
They knew, and they kept looking. But not everybody. Other people are, no, this is like the way it is.
Yep. You mentioned earlier that you're writing a book. Do you want to share with us what you're writing?
Yeah, we
Sure.
if you
I
want.
can't wait.
Yeah, it's been really fun. I mean, I've never positioned myself as a writer, but when I write, man, it just comes out, and it's a very unique voice. So I'm in a container in a writers group right now. I'm getting feedback and critiques as I work through it, and it's so beautiful. Like I feel spirit moving through me as I'm doing.
I believe it. Yeah.
It's so incredible. It's just a different art form. And so it's called The Third Generation, an uncommon tale of truths. So I come from a lineage of healers, and I studied with my grandmother energy healing and nutrition, and she practiced this very obscure form of energy healing called health kinesiology, which is different than just kinesiology as if you were to go to a chiropractor or someone muscle testing you. That's a part of it. But she was a little bit undercover. Like you would go into her office and it would look maybe more like a acupuncture session with crystals and that kind of thing. What was actually happening when I went to apprentice with her is she was channeling very high frequency energies and allowing that healing to move through her body to that client. She worked with tens of thousands of people.
Wow.
She had a practice for 45 years.
Wow.
She had clients until the day she died.
Wow.
No.
She just was so dedicated to this work. She healed herself from a very abusive first half of her life, including cancer. And then she said, she told God, if I make it through this, I'm going to give back. I'm going to spend the rest of my life giving back. And that's what she did. And so I grew up adjacent to this, went on my own path, thought it was weird, became an artist, became emo, whatever, and then came back to it later in life. And so the book is really about my journey of starting out with the fact that I was born with very highly intuitive psychic abilities, could see energies, could see spirits. Then I realized that wasn't normal, shut it down, lived kind of like a dark period for a while. Had these moments in like church and stuff where I knew there was something, but I just couldn't, you're so small at that point and your brain is still forming and trying to make sense of the world. So the book is about that descent, that void, and then the ascent that happened and these different awakenings that happened through that process.
Cool.
And then how I got involved in what I'm doing now, which is intuitive healing and energy psychology and spiritual mentorship and guiding people through their own dark night of the soul, their own healing processes, their own expansion, you know.
Yeah.
I work with all sorts of people, so it's it comes in all forms.
I think that was one of the things that I read about you that was like really intriguing for me, because when Luis and I thought of the idea of breathe into life is because, you know, like when we take a step back and we breathe into like whatever that challenge or whatever the situation is, we tend to come back with a better mindset, clarity.
Yeah.
And from reading your information, it sounds like you help people to kind of shift, right, from like that dark moment to like, but
Yeah.
can you share with us what that looks like in your clients? Because we only know what we do, but
Yeah.
like we haven't talked to people that have moved from there to a brighter, light side.
Totally. I'll give you an analogy, and then I'll give you an example, like a case study. So the analogy I like to use is the computer analogy. So we all have all of these tabs open at any point in time, right?
Yeah.
And the more tabs you have open, think of like energy cords going everywhere.
How many tabs do you have open right now?
Right? If you were to count them.
Just of that one screen.
Yikes, right? And you don't even know what they all are. You know, if you have more than 10 open, you definitely don't know what the rest are. You know, like you don't
I'm
remember.
sorry, 3. I don't know what the other 2 are.
No.
I only need 1 right now.
So that's
Many
how I
tabs.
view the energy system, right? It's like, so we have different energy bodies. We have the etheric, spiritual body, emotional body, mental body, physical body.
Yeah.
And so especially through Joe Dispenza's work, quantum physics, what they're showing, what the science is showing in that area, is that the imprint, whatever thing let's say you get asthma, right? That imprint lived in your energy field before it made its way to your body. So it made its way through all of your mental field, your emotional field, and then eventually to your physical body, right? So we need to consider all these other energies these other fields that hold information that we don't normally consider, especially in Western medicine, right?
Yeah.
So my work looks at a lot of that, like what tabs do you have going on right now? And how can the ones that are unhelpful to you,
Can we close
let's
them?
close those, right? How do we close those tabs? How do we heal through that? And there's also spiritual philosophies of why you have those tabs open. It's not happenstance. In Eastern philosophy, they call it samskaras. In the Kabbalist philosophy, they call it tikkuns. Phil Stutz in more modern psychology talks about it as like part X. So there's these different names for similar things, but samskara, you come in with it. Your soul comes in with it. It's a correction that you're here to make in this lifetime, to bring more light in. What are we all have like some really core ones, and then we have smaller ones. My job, what everyone used to call my grandma, was the energy detective. So people are starting to call me that now
How many
too.
tabs do I have open?
Figuring out where are those energy vortexes, right? What tab, where are the tabs? And how can we consolidate them? Once you start doing that, you realize, oh my gosh, I've just been leaching out all of this energy that I could be using for presence, creativity, healing, whatever it is, creation.
Love that. That's so like, I feel like that can be even simplified even further for somebody that, like, that makes a lot of sense, like, and that resonates. Yes, I've done spiritual work, and I know you have, and we all have, but like, imagine you're working with somebody who's been incarcerated, you know, or like incarcerated youth who's like, they don't know that necessarily. That reality is like, what, you know? And it's like, but you know whatever, and it's just like it's trying to relate and translate that to. I feel like that's translatable.
We talked about this
I really do
specific
feel like that is.
energy spent area this morning,
Yeah.
actually,
Oh,
Yes.
on our
amazing.
ride to the
Yep.
wash house.
Yep.
Luis and I do all these runs
Yep.
in downtown, and we have these really deep conversations sometimes. We have
Yep.
some of them recorded as podcasts. It's awesome.
We're
We
working
don't
on
have the
that,
money
everyone.
with it, but
We're working on that.
But
Right.
no, this morning I felt compelled to share this with Luis, and I remember specifically like the 10 freeway I was about to get on, and I remember determined to tell him, you know, my energy is so important. Not only my energy, my time, right? And like my focus is so
Yeah.
important to me these days because I feel like this, what we're doing right now, is really important
so
to
important.
me
Yeah.
as a messenger.
Yes.
You know, to
Yeah.
share with clarity,
Yeah.
with conviction, with love, with, you know,
Yes.
like intent. So when, you know, as day would have it, you're being pulled, you know, with whatever. It could be like the pool man didn't say the right thing,
Yeah.
right? And all of a sudden now you're tipped off to somewhere. But I think having that mindfulness, and I simplified it to myself and I said it out loud, and I think, you know, like Luis heard me, was that like when I am more aware of like, wow, I just got tipped over something, what's
Yeah.
happening, and I come right back.
Yes.
Oh my, I don't want to spend that energy there because I want to stay happy, focused, and clear.
Yeah.
Coming back.
Yes.
And coming back often when I realize, that's when I'm like, okay, that's all I know.
Yeah.
And that could be throughout the day. That
Yeah,
happens
and it could be like all day.
I mean, you're already a master in a human body right now, but
I think you couldn't get my graduation.
I know, right? Well, you're not yet because you're gonna lose your body.
Okay,
when you
okay,
do
okay.
that.
Oh. Okay, I don't need that. You can hold the degree. But no, I think lately, and I don't know lately what that means as far as lately, but you know, and I feel like we all can kind of relate to that, right? Like you wake up with this like one thing that you want to do.
Yeah.
And that was like the thing, and I'm so glad we're talking about it because
Yes.
one of the things that we really want to do is simplify it for like you and I have tapped into it, we get it.
Yeah.
But what if it's like, you know, somebody that had never heard of that,
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
but they know like something feels really weird when I don't know, feel pissed off about somebody
Right.
saying something about my dress or like,
Yes.
Your
right?
body
That's a great
changes,
idea.
or-
Right. But that's like that one simple thing that sets you off to
Yeah.
like this bad mood. It's like, oh, if you're aware of the bad mood, remember, if you put more into that, the more you're going to feel bad. But if you go, oh, this red colored dress is actually lovely, right? And you like shift that very slightly
Yeah.
to like, I bought this shirt for $10. Like it's amazing deal, and it's red. I love red.
But I will say this, that's Donna saying that, and like in the sense that like if you're starting from ground zero, that's not instantaneous. I mean, you could, but to have that idea and have that thought is an incredible breakthrough. Like that's amazing.
Yeah.
But to remember that and remind yourself and be reminded and live that, we all are challenged by, or at least I am. you
Yes.
know.
Oh yeah.
Definitely, like it's moment to moment, you know, and some days it's easier than others. But I will say that from where I started from, it's pretty amazing, right?
Right.
And then you start to see like, wow, if I actually like send love to myself and send positivity and good thoughts and
Yeah.
positive thoughts and like really work on like making my body feel better. Wow, I can imagine living a long time, you know, another decades,
Yes.
and doing this like what Donna was saying is like, I feel this, whatever we're doing, I don't want to call it work because it's not work, but like this, just living like this, making these choices is so important right now because some of us were asleep for decades. For a long time, I was not 8, and I felt like, oh my God, I'm feeling, you know, an incredible pass through. I didn't merge, you know, or energy being sent through. I didn't feel that.
Yeah.
It was like, no way, man. Fuck you. You know, it was a little bit of like resistance. You know, excuse my language, but it was a little bit of like, you know, it was a little like, and that just like then that becomes your foundation. That becomes the layer, right?
Yeah.
And that becomes that becomes the justification to treat yourself poorly and society and other people. And until you shift that,
Yeah.
that can take a long time if you're lucky to get to that space, to that moment, you know. And then it's like reminding yourself to live like that, and that's lucky for me. I'm around Donna Martin often.
What you just explained made so much sense, and I don't think that many of us know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really did.
Yes, is
Really
that all
does.
the energy fields that we're holding, right? Is it that we're holding, or that's around us all the time?
Some
So,
were born.
what is the
Love
one
that.
tool,
Yeah.
one simple tool that you would like in the morning,
Close to-
or
yeah,
in the
to
night?
simplify,
You know,
yeah.
like what is your tool?
Let's talk about concepts before we go into
Yeah.
tools.
Okay. Sure.
So you touched on a very profound concept, which is witness consciousness. Michael Singer, a lot of Eastern traditions, and Michael Singer writes about this in The Untethered Soul and speaks about this a lot. It's being able to separate, to become less reactive to life, which means you're not dragged around by the circumstances of life.
Right.
Oh, that red dress really,
Made you feel so.
oh my gosh, and now my whole day is bad,
Right.
and now I stubbed my toe,
Right.
and then I got in a car accident. You realize, like, what happens when you get in a certain energy
Frequency.
field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And it can go deeper and deeper and deeper,
Right.
or higher and higher and higher, right?
Yeah.
So you actually have the power to choose,
Yeah.
That's right.
where do I want to go from here?
Yeah.
That's right.
When you give yourself that space, that breath, breathe into it, give yourself that breath, and then watch. And say, I have choice. I have agency right now to choose how I relate to this.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then the really important thing is identity. This is something that I think most people don't understand is actually running their life, are very early limited identities that they're carrying around,
Yes.
right?
Like I think it's like really early. Like
Yeah.
basically when you start to create your identity, if you don't start to you keep evolving that's it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people carry that.
Yes.
And even as
Yeah.
for instance, I'll give you some examples of core identity wounds.
Yeah.
I'm a bad person.
Good.
I'm invisible. I'm not capable. These, I hurt other people. So for instance, if some child hears about from their mother over and over how her birthing experience was really painful, that child is going to adopt an identity
Yep.
that they cause people pain.
Right.
Just their existence. The fact that they were brought into existence causes people pain.
Wow.
Wow, that's
Wow.
powerful.
So,
It's powerful.
can I ask you, how do we make that healthier? Is it coming from the adult, or is it coming from the child? Well, let me rephrase that. So, how do we heal that wound? Okay? So basically, that person had adopted an identity that's not good for them.
Yeah.
From very early on.
Yeah.
So in my mind, is it the parent that needs to be more conscious and more aware of what they're saying to their children, because that is the early adoption of identity?
Yeah.
Or is it the person that's from the child to the adult realizing, God, my parent might have, or I might have adopted something that's not healthy for me.
Yeah.
Are there things that I need to look at inside to see where I need to start healing
Yeah.
if I want to make a change in my life?
Yeah. Both awarenesses are great.
Okay.
Right? And that's the reason. So we're talking about these triggers, right? Like, let's say someone said something about your glasses.
Yeah.
And you could choose to, if you had a wound that I am unworthy or I'm invisible,
Yeah.
and then someone says,
Called out.
"Oh,
Right.
I don't like your glasses." That's not, It's not because they didn't like your glasses. It's because you trace it all the way back. It's because you had that core identity wound.
Yes.
That's what it's touching and it's sensitive. So that tells you you haven't healed that one.
Yeah.
Every trigger is a teacher. Every time, I tell my clients this, every time you get a trigger, I have them keep a trigger tracker. These are golden keys that the universe is giving you to go straight into your healing.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Straight in. Otherwise, we're going to have to like kind of guess and figure it out. But if you have a trigger,
Right.
oh my gosh, we know we have a direct path
Yeah.
to that wound, and we can heal it super quickly.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so that's our vitamins for today. Exactly. When you feel agitated or triggered or not great about someone saying something or just any circumstance,
Yeah.
that if you can look at it as a healing opportunity for you
Yes.
to be even better than where you're at.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
that's the golden ticket.
Yes. Yes. If you can get, I tell people, if you can get excited about this,
Right.
and then what happens to your mood? What happens to
Right.
the rest of your day?
Right.
What happens to the
Amazing,
healing that's
right?
in
Yeah.
your body?
Yeah.
By that shift, oh, I'm going to heal this. Because that's really what we're all here doing.
Right. Right.
But that shift and what you said about I want to be calm, happy, centered, or what were the things that you mentioned, like your ideal self when you get triggered, you go back to?
Well, when I get triggered, I just want to, one, make light of things, right? Let's say, if, like, a comment about my glasses. I usually look at it as like, well, am I perceiving it differently than what they're really saying?
Great.
That's one thing that I do recently that where
Yeah.
I'm like, well, this might not even be as personal as I think it is.
Yeah.
I immediately re-look at like the way I'm thinking,
Yeah.
how my mind's perceiving it. But I haven't done the whole healing thing, where I look at it like, oh wow, I'm really triggered by this. Why is there something way deep underneath that I can trace back to? So I'll start doing that.
I mean, I've done that a little bit.
I'm like, Jen, I have a list.
I know. I have my tracker.
And your trigger tracker.
My trigger tracker. Make a hat. Trigger tracker.
Like, I found another one.
Or text you.
Right. I mean, imagine if, like, you know, the one common place that I get triggered a lot is the post office.
Yeah. Okay, why?
Because I don't feel like I'm being treated kindly at the post office.
What does that mean about you?
And you know, I get a little impatient, right? Like I want to get out of there, and I don't know. I don't know why I'm impatient, because I've stood there and analyzed it myself too. Okay, well, they're doing as fast as I can, and I'm gonna have to just stand here. But I think the way that is the approach of, like, you know, I feel like I'm bothering them.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you ever feel like that when you were a kid, bothering that you're
that I'm a
bothering
bother? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
You're right.
So that's it.
Yes.
I'm a bother. The core identity. I'm a bother.
Yes.
Can we-
I would say that often to myself too. I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or a burden.
Trigger try.
You can go to the post office and give Charlene a hug. And start giving hugs out. Come here. Bring it in.
all me. It was just me.
Bring it in. Bring it in, Sheila. Can we talk
Thank you, post
about?
office. We love you.
I'm very curious about fear. Like, how does fear play into exactly what you were talking about? Triggers, because there's a lot of fear and anxiety, right, in our society, in the world. But then people carry fear, and that they lash out. What's your, like? I'm just curious about that. Like,
Well, I'm a burden. Let's
Okay.
take on, for example, right? You're afraid to be a burden. So there's already fear wrapped
Around
into
that.
that, right? But we don't like to feel fear.
right,
So that would
We
lead
don't,
to
right,
impatience.
right.
Because you don't want to be feeling that fear
right.
while you're in the post office, because in the background, in the subconscious. Again, this is very deep subconscious work. This is not, you didn't go into the post office knowing that you felt like a burden and that's why
Right.
you're agitated.
Right.
Right? This is deep. But you're very adept, so you could pull it out really quickly. But, so that fear will trigger you to do other things because it's uncomfortable to get out of that state. And it's very limited. There's so many parts of the mind, and I use a lot of parts work, parts psychology. And those parts will tell you different stories. So the fear will trigger different parts that will tell you different stories. Sheila, she's got bad vibes. Just don't like her. This guy in front of me, what is he doing? He can't be as important as what I need to do, right? It's going to start creating stories around you because it doesn't actually want you to heal that thing inside, because then you lose a part of the ego. That part no longer has a role. A lot of these parts are protecting you. They have a protector role. They're there for survival. We develop them often when we're young.
Damn.
So,
that makes so much sense.
Right, it does make sense.
To
Okay,
me.
so like in my simple mind, the way I'm simplifying this is that we do these things that are like, we do these things because we're trying to protect ourselves.
I feel like fear
What is
is that's what anxiety and fear are like. If I was being chased down the street by an animal, yes, fear is going to make me run as fast as I can, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if I'm like here and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, the sky's falling and blah, 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 this is happening. And I'm like, it's really not.
Yeah. You have
It's
to
really-
protect yourself.
It's the fear
Right?
that's
It's
like making
my
you
fear
like, oh my God,
told
do
me
this,
that.
do that. And
It's,
like,
it's
my
causing
reaction
a nervous
to-
system
it is.
response. And then that can cause immune response, inflammation, disease, like
And that's why.
absolutely.
That's why we started Breathing the Life.
I'm curious. Okay, so I'm very, very curious about this. So all of us have sat in front of a laptop computer and get emails,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
You know what you know where I'm taking you with this. So there's always those emails where you're like, what? What are you saying? And this is like this words on screen.
Right.
So when we're like, oh my God, I can't believe she said that.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
So what is that? What do you
Give me an example of like a type of email. You don't need to like word for word,
Right,
but
right.
like what's the tone? Or...
I'd give you one.
yeah, you give me one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna keep this not
Yeah,
personal life.
very
I'm gonna
general.
keep this very general,
Yeah.
like client based. Like let's
Yeah.
say like I work in entertainment, you know, and I think that what I've written musically is amazing, and I send it to a client. The client comes like, well, it's not like really what we were imagining. I'm like, wow, that's the Debbie Downer. That's the like, what? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm older now. I don't really,
Yeah.
I don't have the same association, but that's a really common criticism. Is my point, right? When we get critiqued by others,
Yeah, okay.
whoever that is,
Yeah.
it could be your family, your friends, your love, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Your
Yeah.
client. It's still you're like, but I was feeling so good. It's like, how am I going to react to that? Now
Yeah.
my day, if that came in the morning, that was the first thing that came overnight. I've read that early in the morning. It's like my day could be shot
Yeah.
if I let it.
Yeah.
But that's really my decision. That email has to be sent
Yeah, but
regardless.
it's triggering something.
Right.
It's triggering something.
So
Right,
what
so-
Luis? Yeah. So exactly. So like, Luis receives an email.
Yeah.
And is basically saying like they don't love what he sent over.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's bothered by the fact that they're saying we don't like this. Can you give us more options?
Yeah.
What is being triggered there?
So I'll ask you,
Right.
when they send that critique back to you, what are your thoughts? What are just
I'm mentoring it with let's for example, in prior times with an expectation that everything's amazing. This is great. I'm
Yes.
so lucky to have this job and you know, this is great, blah blah. So that's it. And I'm like, then you read and you're like, oh, and you heard it and your body changes, right?
so what does it mean about you? So when they send you that email.
That I have an expectation, right? That's what it means, I guess.
No. Let's keep going. So what is it when they send that email and basically say, we don't like your work? That's what they're kind of saying,
That
right?
my ego has been bruised, right?
Yeah.
That's fragile.
Right. So what does that mean about you then? Like when your ego gets bruised, what they're saying, like think of like little Luis. What would, like in his mind, what would he be saying to this? Like,
Well, you just I would react to be like, you just don't understand. Like, you don't get it.
what don't they understand?
They don't understand my intention or who I am or my
Okay.
creativity or like my geniusness and until I started to wake up and realize like nothing's precious, so you just make it again. It doesn't really matter. It's like, I'm just trying to use the example of like criticism, right?
Yeah.
I didn't like being criticized at one point in my life. I was like, no,
Yeah.
I know.
Right. So part of that, before we even go deeper, is that you're attaching your value as a person to what you're creating,
There you go.
right?
Right. Which I think a lot of
So-
artists do, right?
Because when they say your work isn't valuable, what they're actually saying to you, your mind computes it as I'm not valuable.
Because, why? Like, how did that happen?
Well, depends on your growing up.
Okay.
But most
Right.
people have an unworthiness
Got it.
wound or
Right.
an I'm not valuable.
Right.
All people have
Yeah.
that.
Right. And is that because of, and I'm going to take it a step further because I see where you're at. I'm very interested in this. Let's say that like you grow up in a household where no one says good job
It is, yeah.
ever. And you're just like,
But
that's
is
it.
it really ever though?
I don't know. I'm
You
just
know?
saying, I
Because
don't know.
like I often wonder about this. Like we as humans only are very selective in hearing,
Oh, right.
right?
And
Like,
remembering.
and remembering, right? So
Right.
our stories
So I
are so
remember.
different from like, let's say like I sat down with my brother and
Yeah.
asked him about the one incident. He's like, really? That's how you remember it? And I was like, no, that's how it happened, right? And so
Selective
that's
memory,
what I'm
right.
saying is like,
Right.
if you like,
Right.
got like
Yeah.
my siblings, my one sibling and my cousin together, and they're like, no, that's. So my point is like, when we are creating those stories, are they really true? So what if we just kind of give
Kind
it,
of doesn't matter if it's true or not, if you have the trigger that imprints in you.
yeah.
That story also, I happen to believe in different past lives, different timelines. That story is, even if no one said anything to you about your worthiness in this lifetime, that might have been something you came in
That
with that
explains it.
wound, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, so
we
now we're
look
talking.
at, it doesn't,
Right.
in certain circumstances, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. For some things, if there's a channel to go to that place and heal it in that moment, you can do that. But we can also just heal it without knowing why it's there, where it came from.
Interesting.
Maybe you got it from being at art school.
Right.
Like I got a lot of shit from being at art school.
Right.
That was not healthy for me.
Right.
Right.
It doesn't have to be generational
Right.
trauma.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, it could be
A lot of it is, but not
Right.
necessarily.
It doesn't really matter. The point
Yeah.
is that it's like it's traumatic or it's triggering to you, and
You're carrying
the
it.
idea is to solve that. That's really cool. That's profound.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think it comes back down to like, okay, I think what we're talking about here is like if you're like wanting to feel better about any situation or just on your day-to-day basis, and if when you start to feel bad, just kind of look at it, why you're feeling bad and how you can get out of that feeling bad to like a more easier in the body, nervous system state.
There's a couple things I can share around tools.
Okay, here we go to tools.
You listening?
This is so good. Have we
All
even
ears.
asked you questions? Nah, it doesn't matter. Okay, tools.
So, one tool, first, name it. Name it. What is it? So that was witness consciousness. See it. First, you have to pause and see it. Then, you create that space. When you see that it's not you, when you realize your thoughts are not you, watch out. You become very powerful. You become the creator of your life at that point.
Yeah.
You're no longer dragged around by circumstances, having to have good things go your way. you are ahead of the curve. You are creating good things. You change into creator mode.
Yeah.
So interesting.
So you just
Wow.
made it so simple. If you believe, when you believe that you are not your thought,
That's right.
that's what it sounds like. You're saying your thoughts is not really you.
Right.
It's like you're not responsible for all those thoughts.
No.
And you can go, I can become the thought, or you take control over your thoughts.
Love that. That's really empowering.
Yes.
It's like the thought doesn't control you.
No.
It can't control you.
You can't. Unless you
Unless you
let
want it to. Unless you
Right.
allow for it, which means that that's probably, it's not criticism. There's no criticism.
We
It's
all
just
do
like,
it.
you're
Yeah.
just trying to like, okay, see that. That's what you're working toward. It's like, I
Yes.
don't want my thoughts to control me. I don't want to.
Because the consequences of your thoughts running your life is it is astronomical. Like one thought leads to a bad mood, leads to a sensation in your body of guilt, anger, shame, fear, depression, anxiety, which has cascades a whole bunch of hormones and chemicals in your body, and then that on repeat causes really a lot of illness, mental illness, physical illness. I mean, we need to control our thoughts and watch them in order to really regain health.
Okay, so how would you control your thoughts? I'm so hungry right now. How do you how do you control that urge to eat, you know?
It's a good one because I practice fasting, so actually normally.
So do I. So do we.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Only to a certain hour, though.
But then we're like really hungry. We're like, let's just eat. We gotta eat. Let's eat.
Angry person comes out.
I know.
Yeah, but yeah, a thought comes in,
Yeah.
right? But then you get to choose. So the point is that you get to be with this witnessing. If you put yourself in the witness consciousness, you name it. What is that thought? Is that helpful to me? Do I want to follow that thought? Maybe that thought is really helpful to you right now
Right.
because you should eat something, right?
Right.
Or maybe it's not because you're trying to do a 72-hour fast and
Right.
reset your microbiome,
Right.
and that thought is actually just going to disrupt
Right.
what you're doing. So you can say, I'm not going to choose to listen to that thought right now. I'm going to drink my lemon water. I'm going to drink my electrolytes, whatever you're doing. And instead, I'm going to follow my own higher self, my higher path.
Yeah.
And this is what's important, is to have a higher path
Right.
set out, which is, what would my higher self do today? I ask myself this question every morning when I get up. What is one thing my higher self would do today? How would my higher self act? So I have like a post-it note. It says, Jenn 17.0. She is what? She is satisfied, generous, and grateful. So how can I keep centering myself to those? And those words change throughout a course of a year of what I want to practice. Maybe relaxed is really good for me. So I need to anchor. We all need to have anchors
Yeah.
to go back to. We fall. I forget who says this. I think it's Atomic Habits. James Clear says
Yes.
this.
I've
We fall to the level of our systems.
Yeah.
So we need systems in place for when those thoughts come in. Okay, what's my system? Name it. Okay, great. Breathe. Great. Go back to my 17.0 version. Great. Right? Write it down in my trigger tracker so I can process it later. So I don't have to keep learning this thing on repeat every week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We need systems in place to do this, and we haven't been taught that. And that's like part of my work with people is like, let's create some systems for you, because this is a daily, momentary shift.
Do you feel like this system needs to be instilled in like little kids?
Oh my God, yes. Like, oh my gosh. Soul Church is working on developing a program for youth.
Children.
Yeah, nervous system regulation for children and different tools.
Yeah. Since we don't have that system in place now, I think that as a parent, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel very responsible for my kids
Yeah.
to grow up with, kind heart
Yeah.
And this willingness to be open and, you know, and helping others. So
Yeah.
whatever I learn, whatever I can do, and whatever consciousness I have, right, that have been instilled in me, like I try to pass that on or, you know, guide them through like my learning. So I would encourage parents, like, you know, like if, as soon as you realize, because all the things that we're talking about today is basically us reversing things that could have been prevented many years ago.
Absolutely.
So you know, without having to just continue that cycle, we can immediately start to do better, do differently.
Yes.
I mean, it is what it is, right? Like we've done our best, and that counts. But if we can do better and to help the younger generations,
Absolutely. And we're in a good position to do so.
I am so on board with that. Yeah.
Like, just think of, like, the time in history that we're in, you know, like, think about 50, 100 years ago, like, our grandparents, even our parents, like, birth control just started to come out in the 70s.
Right.
Like, do you know what that meant for women? Like,
Right.
like, we live in a time of such freedom, even though there's all of these other issues that we're now having to deal with. But we have a lot of opportunity our parents and our grandparents did not have. And we have more luxury to switch out of survival mode.
Yeah.
And that's a huge delineation of breaking intergenerational traumas, like right now. It's in this conversation. In this conversation, we're breaking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Like that's the work. That's what we're doing.
So that's Donna Martin. I'm Luis. We are Breathing the Life. Our guest, this is the Breathing Life podcast. We are speaking with Jenn Morse, who is fascinating and really helping us understand how to claim our power and be mindful and just, I don't know, healthy. Anyway, so we were just speaking about like where I was raised, which was very close to Mexico, and I was raised a Catholic, and it was a very patriarchal, very like, it was just a very strict, very rigid, religious society, and we were taught to be in the background. And so my first question is like, how do we? I don't care. I want to be out front because it's like I feel like I'm sharing my knowledge, my experience with people, and I'm listening to people, and I'm gaining from that. That's powerful. And then where does that go? Like, where do you go from there? You know,
there's an important concept. It's about intention. Anything could be good or bad. Technology could be used for such good to spread light, or it could be used to doom scroll and bring someone into a deep depression and comparison.
Exactly.
Right? So the same with being in the spotlight, like you're saying. To just label it as bad, like if you need to hide, you need to be in the background, that's not truth. That's someone imposing a rule upon you. Where is that coming from? So let's say you're doing this podcast now, and you're in the spot. Literally, there's a spotlight here. Okay, like right in front of you.
natural light. Okay, keep going.
Right. So you're now in the light, but where are you coming from by doing this? If you're coming from a place of wanting attention, wanting to take from other people, I need you to see me so I feel validated. I need to take your energy in order to feel validated. Then no, you probably shouldn't be in the spotlight. Maybe you should chill.
Right.
You should figure that out first.
And then,
But if you're coming in and you're like, I want to share.
Yeah.
I just feel inspired to share this light coming through me, this wisdom. I want to create more light in the world, more healing in the world. I want to give. So here, you take or you give. What energy are you coming from when you're doing that? It's not the act, it's the energy behind the act. So that's an invitation for all of us to look at what we're doing. Even eating, right? You can eat to numb things, or you can eat to nourish.
Yeah. I think about that all the time, and I'm more of a feely person, so I love when things feel good. Yeah. Right, and I want to do more of that. That's all I know. So I have to really break it down. But when I also overeating or taking also feels good at first.
Yes.
So that's the difference, right?
Yes.
So if when I tell myself or allow myself to do the things that feels good.
Yeah.
But if I'm overly feeling good, or it could be the opposite effect.
Yes.
But would that be the simplest way to kind of gauge where your energy is in doing something? If you didn't know how to identify the energy behind something.
You want to discern, you want to, does this feel, okay, you can ask yourself, does this feel good? But what place is it coming from? Am I trying to escape something? Is this out of a fear around something? Or is this out of a sharing, a love, an abundance? Is this scarcity? Is it truth? Is it trauma? Where is this coming from, this action I'm about to take? Because you're right, it's a fine line between addiction and brilliance, right? What feels good, and what you'll know is it'll feel good immediately, you'll get a hit, and then you'll have a big crash.
Right.
So after the fact, you will know, was that a sustainable action for me to take? Was that a really aligned action for me to take? Maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
You don't have to be hard on yourself about it, but you just gather information around, that felt good immediately, but then I needed more. And then I needed more. And then if I didn't have it, I needed more. Right? Just like validation being on the stage, you know, if that's what you're really getting from it, you need more and more and more and more approval.
Yeah.
And that is not sustainable, and that's when you know, do you crave, is it something you need? You're getting energy from it rather than being the source and allowing yourself to channel the energy.
Yeah. I believe so, because when there is a consistency or a level, right? Feeling, and that you're not doing the spikes. Yeah. It's a lot easier on your nervous system. So I mean, without knowing whether you're are you addicted to this, or this feels good because you're in it and you're aligned, right? Because a lot of people don't even know what alignment is. But if you're consistently feeling good about the one thing that you do, for example, let's say I work at a corporation and I go in 9 to 5, and the energy in that building, or there's a lot of demands, right, for my job. And I get home, and the one thing that I love is going into my garden. And maybe it's just sitting, or even planting, something small. But if I feel it, that initially feels good, and I keep doing it, and I might think that's an addiction, but it's leveled. It levels you out. So would you say that's the thing that
the balance?
Is the balance.
We have coping. We have coping mechanisms, and some of them are healthy, and some of them are not. Right? Ultimately, it would be that person, their lesson to transcend the garden. Because eventually there's going to be some day where they don't have a garden, they can't go outside, maybe their hands don't work, right? And that they're going to be faced with the fact that they outsourced their power to the garden. This is where we really come back to meditation and connection to source, and getting still and sourcing your power from something outside. I'm not telling you to not garden, because I think that's a great idea.
What are you saying though? What are you? Clarify that. Simplify that. Sourcing to power. What do you mean?
When you meditate, when you do anything. So she could be gardening and connecting that feeling that she's having to source, to creator, to higher power, to universe, to God. She could realize that that is just a form of God that she's getting to connect with.
That's right. So do you hear that? Don't stop doing your chores around your house.
Still keep doing that.
Connection.
But from a different vantage point.
Right.
So you're not attaching to
You're doing it.
the thing.
Right. So I feel related to that is service and serving others.
Yeah.
Like there is a benefit to that. Volunteering or plants, animal, whatever it is, taking care of kids, whatever it is. It's like there's a lot of joy and like a lot of like relationship to your higher power just by like, okay, I'm gonna take care of.
But from what it sounds like, if that is not if you're not doing it out of goodwill, or like if you're not doing it from the true intention of goodness, if you're looking for validation, or if you're looking for like, oh, I hope somebody tells me like I'm doing a great thing because I'm volunteering, and or like,
Yes,
oh, I hope that my kids tell me that I'm a good mom because I'm raising them. So I think to kind of like circle back on everything that you're all saying is that like when you're doing something, is it coming from a place of like
Sincerity.
Good
Sincerity,
intention.
Yeah, exactly. Good intention.
That will sustain. That would last
Yes.
Yep.
much longer.
It will, and it will make people so drawn to you. Opportunities, synchronicities, things just fall into your life. Things flow when you're in this state. I think we've all experienced that at least once or twice.
Yeah.
If we're lucky, many times, and where it's just like, wow, things are just coming to me. I'm not even really doing anything. I'm just being. Just being myself, and I'm giving. I'm in this state of giving, and I also know how to receive. So what we don't realize, we all have a magnetic field. We have an auric field that includes all those energy fields I was talking to you about. The energetic, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. But this field is called the toroidal field, has a positive and negative pole on it, just like a battery. So think of a AA battery. It's got a positive and negative side. You know when you put two batteries together and they either zoop or they push each other back, right? Two magnets, rather. We have that same thing going on in our energy field. So when we shut off giving, which is the plus sign, the positive, or we shut off receiving, which is the negative pole, that field becomes very small. And we don't feel the flow. Like, I'm not in the flow. Yes, because we're not fully giving and we're not receiving. Something in that loop is off.
Right.
It can't just be I'm giving, because that's just not natural. When someone does that, they're doing it out of need for validation, usually need for other people to accept them, like them, think they're the best, think they're number one, whatever it is. You can't give indefinitely without receiving back.
So what advice do you have if someone's always giving and not receiving? In other words, like, are they just not allowing themselves to receive, or
oftentimes,
what's happening there?
Oftentimes there's a belief that shuts that part down. I'm not worthy, right? If most of us have that, especially women have that. Anyone who's traumatized or a woman has that belief. And if it's unconscious still and not healed, that will shut that part down. So it's like you receive a little. I'm not saying we don't receive anything. We receive a little, but oh my gosh, can you imagine if someone gave you a compliment, Donna, you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Right? Receive it. So many times we deflect. You see people with compliments all the time.
Absolutely.
No. Oh, this whole thing. Oh, no, you're amazing, right?
Absolutely.
You're beautiful. Oh my gosh, I can't. Right? Deflect. We don't accept. We don't receive.
I've done that before, so I've never. I mean, I haven't always been this like well-received person. I've learned it over the years because it did make me uncomfortable when people gave me compliments. And when I discovered that I couldn't receive for whatever reason, I didn't really drill to like why. But I started to change by, accepting the gifts, right? Because my self-worth, I deserve it. I tell myself these things where I'm like, okay, it's gonna get more comfortable if I would just allow myself to receive compliments, gifts, or whatever that is. But I think it is a training.
It is.
It's absolutely a training because you're were trained not to receive and only give. But now you're changing, retraining yourself to now give, but also learn how to receive, and that's the balance you're talking about.
Yes, that's harmony.
Yeah.
We're all doing that. The trees are giving, like us and the plants and the animals and the breathing and the CO2 and the oxygen, right? It's all giving, receiving, producing, giving, receiving.
Yes.
Ooh, it's all flowing.
Yes.
Now, can you imagine if, one thing was just like producing two, and then it wasn't receiving anything, and then it would just die. Right? That's just not how naturally we're built.
Yeah. We're seeing that happen, like oceans, not to deflect,
Yeah.
hoping you're on me, but
Oh,
we're seeing that, like, that's definitely happening with CO2, right?
Exactly.
We are seeing that. But and it's not so much like, can we change that? It's just the willingness and the introspection and like, can we spiritually make changes? Anyway, bond me, everybody.
Take a bite. It's so good.
We'll solve problems later.
Eat first.
If you're curious where we got our banh mi, it's on our website, breatheintothelife.us. You can buy one, and when you go to the location to get it, you get a café soda, which is a Vietnamese coffee, in addition to your BIL banh mi. The location is in Echo Park, so it's not too far from where we are, but for
So
those
Echo
that
Park.
are far, we can't ship them to you, unfortunately.
Where's Echo Park? Like LA.
LA. Downtown LA.
Close to where the Dodgers are.
Yes.
The Dodger Stadium is delicious. When we come back, let's eat. But I would like to know, let's see, there's some good questions here. I just went to what's one small thing someone can do when they feel like giving up. I'd love to, I know.
Well, I think when we started to think about like what can we do with Breathe Into Life to really help people, I always had this vision of someone feeling really bad and not sure why they're feeling bad.
Yeah.
Because I've been there, where like, you're doing all the things, right? You got kids, you're leading a really big team in a corporation, you're making the good money, you're doing your best, you're running on high coffee energy.
Yeah.
And you get home, the kids are laughing and, and engaging, and you're tired. So I guess I didn't see it that way when I was going through it, but that is a burnout. And I didn't realize, and I can only imagine that some people probably don't even know that is a burnout.
Yeah.
And how do you come back from it? Because that's the hamster wheel. Like you just get up and there's no other option, right?
Yeah.
Like you can see it that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely
That's
can
how we
see it
perceive
like,
it,
I don't have any other option. My
Yeah.
kids got to get to school. I have to make the paycheck. I have to feed them. So can you share with us if you've had clients that kind of like came to you with the same like, I don't know why I feel so bad. Can you help me?
Yeah. I want to say two things, and I'll give you a client example. One of my teachers, Sensei Kitano, he's 700 years unbroken samurai lineage. Wow. Incredible wisdom comes through this person. He speaks about two types of fatigue in society: physical and spiritual. That's it. There's only two. Physical is there's an athlete training all day, you have physical fatigue. If you're in the fields farming all day, you have physical fatigue. Most of us do not have physical fatigue.
Right, because we're not farming, or are we like training for?
No.
Right.
So this extra sleep, this Netflix and chill is not actually helping us.
Right.
We have spiritual fatigue. And I asked him, what is spiritual fatigue? Like, tell me, like, what does that even mean? And I got him to break it down, and essentially that is all of those energy bodies that are not the physical ones, like the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual bodies are out of whack, and depleted.
That's one.
The best thing you can do for spiritual fatigue is start to see which one is usually, if it's bad, it's usually all of those energy bodies that need attention.
Yeah.
So spiritually, where can you connect more? Emotionally, where are you blocked? Mentally, what are the toxic thoughts that keep running in your mind that are causing your body to feel a certain way, right? So you've got to start to look. What type of fatigue is running in these different programs, right? In these different energy layers of my energy field. So that would be like just a context, you know, to look at is, was I running a marathon? Okay, if not, then I probably have spiritual fatigue.
Yeah.
And that is mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Mental, emotional, and
There's something imbalanced or blocked in one or all of those different layers of your energy field, right? So you get to start to uncover what that is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just an emotional thing that hadn't been processed. It's not that you need to find your life's purpose right now. It's not that. It's just like, oh, I just didn't process this grief that I had. All right, now I'm getting rolling.
right.
Well, for a lot of us, it's way more layered on all of the levels.
Yeah. But at least that's one tiny shift from like, oh my God, I feel so bad, to like, oh, okay, that might be the thing that's making me feel so bad.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it's not a defect. What an empowered mindset will do is say, this is not about my job. This is not about my boss. This is not about the system. This is not about my kids. This is about something in me
Yeah.
that I need to address.
Yeah.
And then maybe, yes, you do need to make a pivot, right? Like, but first you got to start within. Maybe, yes, okay, you work on all this stuff and you realize, wow, when I'm connected spiritually, I know my passion is to be a musician and I'm in this corporate job. And that is absolutely what I need to now do moving forward, is make that transition. Right? So maybe that was the message for you spiritually that was there the whole time.
Yeah.
And that it was keeping you stressed and locked up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then an example, so for instance, like burnout, corporate culture burnout is so big, right? I mean, oh my gosh. Especially the younger generation, the rates are getting super high. By the age of 25,
People are just like,
a
I'm done.
majority of people are saying that they're really severely burnt out.
Wow.
They're going to doctors, they're getting all this medication. I mean, 25? What are we doing? It's like the peak. I mean, you're just like on your way up.
Just started. Yeah.
So I had a woman client come to me.
Yeah.
She was working in New York City.
Yeah.
Really like high level position in a Fortune 500 company. And she came to me, she got on the first call and she was ghost white and like sweating. And I was like, okay, all right, what's going on? She's like, I don't know what is happening, but I can't take this pressure anymore. I can't take the pressure of this job. And she had to take a leave of absence. And she's like, I need to figure this out. Like she was on the floor in the corner, sweating, like just shaking, just anxiety, couldn't sleep. Like,
Wow.
what we uncovered through our work together is that many things were causing this belief, right? I'm not valuable. I need to prove my worth through this job, but this job is never giving me that. It's giving me a little, and then it's taking it away, and it's wanting more and more and more and more. No boundaries, zero boundaries, right? It's all give, because I want you to tell me I deserve to be here. So for her, what really, we did a lot of like the core belief work and understanding what tabs were open, which ones to close, new ones to put in. But one of the biggest moments was where we did a regression. So this is where I take people through a guided visualization. And you do breathing through it, and you visualize, and you go back to certain points in time. her body indicated she needed to go back to the time where she was in utero inside of her mom.
Oh, wow.
She found out during this meditation, during this guided journey I was taking her on, that she was like, I feel like my mom didn't want me.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, she's like, I feel like she might die. I feel all this sadness around my existence. And that I shouldn't be here. That I'm causing her pain.
Oh, wow.
She then comes out of that session and feels like, whoa, she calls her mom. Her mom said, oh my God, like, she never told her this, because she was like, you weren't planned. I was really afraid, and I was suicidal when I was pregnant with you.
Wow.
What the? Unlocking that for her, boom. Because she realized that wasn't her wound to carry anymore.
Right.
That story that she was hurting other people, that she was unworthy. She didn't have to prove herself anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
She went back to work. She then got a promotion, then started her own business. Now got married,
Right.
has a family in a huge place.
Yeah.
Right.
like,
Yeah.
Right.
but she really, we really dug into where is this coming from, and what are those systems that are controlling your behaviors that are leading to this burnout.
Right.
So interesting.
So what it sounds like is it's an inner work,
Yeah,
and it's not the outer work.
yeah.
You can be anywhere in the world. You can be outside on the beach
Yeah.
and still have overwhelming anxiety. If you have a wound that is living in you that you haven't explored or discovered, you're going to get overwhelmed.
So how would you explore? Like a wound? Like what, how do people begin to unpack, I don't know, whatever your trauma is, or be like, my body, whatever, without like working with you, but like how do people, the general public, start to be like, wait a second, something's up, what do I do? What's it?
Knowledge is one, right? Like the first step is even knowing, like listening to a conversation like this, reading different books, understanding this concept, these concepts, so that then you can start to move into that witness consciousness that we're talking about and watching them. As soon as you can start to watch the thoughts that are happening, then you can start to track them like a trigger tracker, right? Or keeping notes.
Right.
Then asking, what does this mean about me? Like, what story am I telling myself?
Right.
On a deep, like, everything you've heard today, like, I'm not capable,
Right.
I hurt other people, I'm a bad person, I'm unworthy, right? Like, it's very rudimentary. It's not, we make these elaborate stories about things and why we're hurt.
It's really brave.
It's really simple.
Yeah.
It's really simple at the core of it.
Yeah.
So if you have the willingness to go and discover that core,
Yeah.
in whatever way you need to, like whether that's through meditation, journaling, writing, through therapy, through healing sessions, through reading different books, taking workshops, right? Just allow your soul to lead you to the next best teacher and the next best piece of information.
Yeah.
If you have that intention, I want to do the inner work now, you will be shown.
Right.
Yeah, I love simplifying things because I have 3 kids and I always have to simplify things more. But I also think that when I simplify things, it helps me to get to like the first step I need to do if I want something. Right? So I think for this podcast and like everyone that I come across in life, I always envision it as like if we're always processing, thinking, and overthinking about everything, right? Now, what if we were to change that into something that helps us so we can help others?
Right.
For me, it's like the motivation for me is like the ripple effect that we can make when we're so good and healthy.
Positive, yeah.
If I'm happy and healthy and like feeling good,
Yep.
I walk outside immediately within my field. I can
true.
give that
It's true.
without even
Absolutely.
saying anything.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
how amazing we are, and I want that for
Yeah.
me, for everywhere that I come across,
Yeah.
the minute I go out the door.
Yep.
That's your why. And that's a great tool that we could, share with your audiences.
Yeah.
Your why.
Right.
Your why is so that you can bring more love to this world, more harmony. You see that by you doing that, there's a ripple effect. You have a strong vision and a strong mission. Your why is strong. If you don't have a strong why, it can be difficult, right? Like it can be difficult to do anything. Like why would an athlete train? Like why would someone become an NBA player? Like they have to have a strong why.
Yeah. What's your why?
It's similar. It's really is. I anchor on the word light warrior a lot.
I love that.
I know
Yeah.
that by spreading this information, this light, this frequency, this is part of my soul's work. Like for me, it's a soul level thing. It's always been that way. I've never been motivated to like buy money or looking good or fame, status. It has to be deeper than that or it just falls flat for me. I know that my soul came here to do something very specific, and I don't want to keep learning this lesson over and over and over. I would rather do my best in this lifetime
And just like,
to complete it.
I know, I've read that and I've seen reels and I've I've heard it so many times. So I finally made a visual for myself. Like, imagine if I have to walk around the block all year. Oh my God, here I go again.
Again, same thing.
I'm coming block and just keep.
I feel like that's the was it Prometheus from Bound to Rock? That's what that was. It was like I'm gonna push the rock up and it's gonna roll all the way down. I'll push it up again and it's gonna roll all the way down. It's just over.
But what
and
if
over
you're
again,
like,
right?
oh, what if I just go to the next street
Yeah.
over, right?
Yes.
So like that would be
Right.
like let me do something different.
Yes.
So
Right.
not exclude you, but what's your why?
Oh,
Do you
my
wanna
why
share
is
your
really
why?
my why now is to really share what because I somehow made it to the other side of a really dark, in my opinion, a really dark time, and I wanted to share that with people and be like, because I've worked with people that like they had it way harder than I did, right? And I said know that, and I saw that. Especially the work that I did in Bernalillo County, New Mexico, that was so, like some people, like imagine you're 12 or 13 and you're already like, you're going to be on trial for attempted murder or murder. That's like, your life is pretty much, that's it. You are in the system. Even if they let you out, it's just like, I'm just like, that has to stop. And so I want to share that the story of resilience and the human resilience is so powerful.
Right.
And I want to share, I have a very mild version of it. There are people out there in the world of 8 billion people like that are very resilient. And so my idea is to share my story and to hopefully start tapping into that common thread of resilience. Like, well, why do you do what you do? Why do I do what I do? Why do you do what you do? Why is the person in Panama doing what she does or in Vietnam? Like, that's just fascinating to me. I don't know why. Like, I don't know why that's so fascinating, but that is fascinating to me.
Yeah, and I think it sounds like if because we're all connected.
Yeah,
we can relate to one another. There's always one common thread.
I also think that there's something to be said for given a second chance. If you can see that you were given a second chance or third chance or whatever it was, it's like, I want to do that. I feel compelled to do that. I don't know why. Other than that, like, that's it. I'm just going to figure this out because that sort of supersedes everything else. All my wants, all my ego-driven stuff. You know what I mean? And that's profound if you look at it. If you care to see through that. Some people don't. They're just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to pivot and do this. And
And I don't
think
that we're trying to convince people to do anything they don't want to do,
Nope.
right? Because
No way.
our hope is that
no way.
if you're just kind of in that gray area of like, I want to change, but I don't know how, and we want to simplify it so well that they're like, oh, that's all I have to do now.
Yep.
The one step from
Yep.
like not feeling so good to feeling good. It's
That's
just
it.
maybe just starting with watching your thoughts.
I didn't
That's
realize.
it.
I didn't realize.
Pause, witness. That's
I
it.
didn't realize how powerful that is. Like to be able to stop and look at your thoughts and identify. I didn't realize that, until in my 40s.
Yeah.
And then I didn't realize the power of the breath and chanting and sound healing until like my mid 40s. I'm like, no, that is for real.
Right.
And who was talking about that? I think it was Einstein was talking about that, like in the 40s
Yeah.
or 50s about frequency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like
Yeah.
in elementary school, you get sound bath, you get
Imagine.
sound meditation practices.
This needs to be actually what's
Yeah.
happening.
Right, exactly, because it
Near
really
future,
does
like-
regulate your central nervous system.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
like, I don't want anyone to deal with this stuff or like any of the crazy conditions that exist in the world because of the lack of accessibility to a sound bath, man.
Which you
That's
had
it.
in temple,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's
Like-
right.
Like
Exactly.
bringing this back to church, it's like
That's
we knew that.
Yeah.
In tribal settings, we knew that. There was song, there was dance, there was
Drum.
rhythm. Yeah, there was
You move
drums.
your energy, you shake
right.
things
We
up.
knew that.
Yeah.
Recently, I went to Vietnam for the first time with Donna. She took me to Vietnam. I had never seen, well, we went like Ho Chi Minh City, right? I've never been to a city of like 9 million people, for example. It was the most organized chaos, peaceful, non-violent, no graffiti. Never did I feel like threatened on the street. I'm not trying to like say like walk around and be like dumb about whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
you travel, but like a country.
Yeah.
And a country that had like a crazy war, right? So you think about like the damage that was done. It's just like, we're not going to go there. It's like we have the decision to, we can like live in that and be like, oh my God. Because I've been to Cuba as well. That's a place where you're like, no, that's like, they're still living in the revolution. And it's like, in communism, and it's like, it's a really downtrodden, kind of like a miserable, like feeling place for me. It was the energy of that. It was really dark. But when I went to Vietnam, it was this really explosion of youth and positivity and light and calm. And their temples and people are just like, it's just so different than like the hustle and bustle of New York.
We're not promoting Vietnam.
No, I'm not a spokesperson for the Vietnamese tourism
Obviously
bureau.
had a very nice experience.
I'm just
because
making the
I
point. I'm just
gave
making
him
the point.
the best places to go to.
And the best places to eat. I'm just
wanna
making the
make sure
point.
that was
I've
awesome.
traveled all over the Western Hemisphere, Latin America, Europe, North Africa, and it's like never felt this way. Never felt that way.
So,
You know.
so if we have to like, hone into the one thing that like we felt like we agreed on
Yeah.
was the organized chaos.
Yeah.
And I explained this to him,
Yeah.
and this is like the
So,
level of like, what we're talking about, or
Yeah.
the same subject line that we're talking about.
Hmm.
Vietnamese people are just as like, like rushed and, doing things. But because we have to be so close in proximity, we feel each other,
Yeah.
right? So there is that one connection of like, I feel you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to run into you because I can feel you.
That's right.
So the movement of just
Energy.
going
That's
with the
right.
flow is
That's right.
absolutely there. And guess what?
right.
They're in the present.
Yeah. Yes.
What
we
that
have to be.
means is like,
Yeah.
if I take my eyes off of the road,
I'm
I'm
get
going to
hit.
hit the next person that's so close to me that I don't want to.
Therefore, you are in the present. You
Yeah.
have to be.
Have to be in
Right?
the
Yes.
present. So there,
Yeah.
but because of that practice, there's that calm chaos that's happening, but we're all kind of doing the same thing together.
Yeah.
And I only knew this because I went back to Vietnam. I was born and raised there. I left a very long time ago, and I went back to do some work there. And during that time, I thought like, oh, I'm going to get on the motorbike. I'm going to get on the streets. I'm going to get my kids on front and back. And I did everything, and so I realized two things. That was those two pronounced things that kind of jumped at me. I was like, oh, wow, I'm really in the, like, I'm always very there. Like, I can hear things, I can see things, I can smell things, I can hear my
Yeah.
kids. I'm like, oh, because I don't want to run into that bike,
Yeah.
nor do I want the person behind me running into
Yes.
me because I'm like daydreaming.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, yeah, I have to go with the flow, because if I don't, I'm gonna be off
Right.
the street somewhere, because I'm gonna or being dragged
That's right.
Yeah.
to go with the flow.
Yes. I mean, I'm visualizing a school of fish,
Right.
a flock of birds,
Right.
a herd of
Right.
animals,
So,
right?
so to that point, so have you watched Koyaanisqatsi, I forgot the other one. Have you watched these movies?
No.
Okay, that was sort of like this chaos, but that was very much told from the perspective of like the world is so chaotic. And oh my God. And it's beautiful when you look at it. And you look at everyone going in traffic, and you look at trains, or you look at like birds, or you look at fish. It's like, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Like there's an organization.
There is,
But
yeah.
they had to speed it up. They did all these things to make those movies. I would highly recommend. Those are amazing movies, but they're classic movies. But
Yeah.
it's really like being able to step out, right, and see all that movement. And Vietnam is the closest that Ho Chi Minh City. I won't say the rest of Vietnam, but that's the closest that I've ever seen, because people are like flowing. There's energy, but they're not necessarily like talking to each other about energy.
No.
But it's like they're just living it, and it's like this
Yeah.
constant, just like. And the only other thing is like when I looked at Koyaanisqatsi, and it's like, wow, this is sped up, and like look at Tokyo, holy crap, and there's a lot of people and lights and that's so beautiful.
There was
Right?
one
It's so
other
beautiful.
thing that I learned when I was there, because coming from the West,
Yeah.
I was impatient.
Yeah.
So I would do these things where I'm like, oh my God, move.
Yes.
And nobody responded. So I was like, oh my, am I the only one that was
Which
So
Right.
that leads me to say
Control.
that that's why people just don't, like when they're honking, they're just letting you know that they're right next
right.
to you.
Yeah.
And don't, like, hey, just want to let you know.
Yeah.
that's right.
So,
It's not aggro, like
so the third point where I like really started to like realize when I was there was that like the acceptance of what it is. People just know, like, if I'm gonna get on the street, there's gonna be a lot of people. I'm just gonna have to go with the flow, and I gotta be in the present because I need to understand who anyone is. So it's by accident or by culturally, I don't know what it is, but I can tell you that my energy was very different when I left.
Very different.
Right? But I did get to the frustration point,
Yeah.
but then I realized that, and then we went away, came back, and I'm like, okay, I'm grounded. I know how to stay in the present. But I went on to daydream when I got in my car because it's just so easy to adapt our energy, right? So we all have different types, culturally, we're all differently
Yeah.
in our energy fields.
And in the West, we want to access those energy fields in all these different manners. I'm going to take this. So there's like a third level. There's like a passive, like, heal me, fix me, help me, clear me. I'm going to take these drugs, or I'm going to drink, whatever it is. But it's just like the calmness you feel is in here, right? And if you can access that and be strong in that, it really is. And I'm saying that as somebody who's like, I'm not always calm. I don't always access.
I think
I have my own
yeah,
challenges,
me too.
right? So it's like, I'm just saying that, like, respectfully, like, there is something to that if we all collectively share that,
Absolutely.
with whoever,
I can
anyone.
give you a good example, like just a case study
Please.
around that is meditation retreats. So Joe Dispenza, I go to a lot of Joe Dispenza meditation retreats. 2,000 people meditating together
Right.
for 6 to 8 hours a day,
Wow.
plus learning concepts. So by the end of that time, we create coherence together. There's so many people just packed into this place, and you are flowing. There's synchronicities left, right, and center. You feel connected. You love everyone there. By the end, we are doing these coherence healings. I've seen people, because of that collective energy of the herd, the flock, because it was so elevated and so present, like you were saying, like when you're present and you're aware of each other, and we're taught techniques to elevate, our heart-brain coherence specifically. People who haven't walked in 13 years getting up and walking.
Wow.
I have a friend who went,
You know?
and she was in town in LA a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and she was like, yeah, I went to a Joe Dispenza retreat and I put down my cane.
Yeah.
She has MS. She has like severe MS.
Exactly.
And she's just like, I've never felt that good because of coherence. Because
Yes.
everyone was meditating for everyone to feel, and it did work, and it did elevate. She's like, and I felt great for like a week, and then it went away, and I was like, but that's
the thing.
that is
the
the thing.
practice at home.
That's right, and
And that's harder.
or the non-coherent, like the distance.
Incoherent. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we were talking about that, but how fascinating that is, right?
But that's the work that we're doing,
Right.
and at least that's my vision, is like the more people that can be in coherence, the more this world can look like that street in Vietnam, right?
Yep.
Where we're all flowing, we're all present, we're all connected.
Yep.
We're not just trying to get and grab things from people.
Yeah.
Right? We're part of a larger organism, which is the truth.
Yep.
Right.
And when we cut ourselves off from that, we get a little weird, and then we try to solve it with things like drugs or whatever your Band-Aid is,
Yeah.
right?
I have to admit, I feel really strongly, like, since, my awareness was like more enhanced,
Yeah.
I feel and see and come in contact with a lot more people that are like aligned with what their mission is,
Yeah.
including people online,
Yeah.
which is really odd because you think like this is like separate world, right? That's like curated in a phone.
Yep.
But honestly, these days when I open it, like it's always about love. It's always about like how to improve, something within myself, or messages or reminders. So I guess I'm sharing this because I know this works for me.
Yeah.
And that is my mission, is to help others to feel good so that they can help their family and friends and everybody they're around to feel good. And, we all need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And we need community. We need community that has a shared language like this, that understands heart-brain coherence. And what is that? Oh, if we each understood what that was and some steps to get ourselves into that more frequently, like, just imagine one neighborhood doing that for a week. What would change?
Yeah.
Go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
It's like,
Or soul church.
go to Vietnam.
Exactly. That's what we're aiming to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. In communities.
So Jenn Morse, everyone, I know we've been like, this is probably like 2 hours. I think I'm running out of battery, so I'm going to cut this short and we're going to finish up on me, but it's great talking to you.
Yes.
Thanks so much for doing this with us, and we just keep breathing, keep eating, keep living.
Thank you. Such a light.
Yeah.
We appreciate you so much.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, it's been such
So
an
great.
honor and such a fun
Breathe in life. There you go.
Yes.
That's so fun.
Please come back.
Please come back.
Whenever.